Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta to our weekly coffee chats. I'm joined here with one of my besties from across the pond, Catherine Edwards. How are you doing this morning?
I am so looking forward to this chat. I'm really happy because we have got the first really truly day of spring. It's absolutely beautiful outside. We have proper fluffy clouds. The sun is out, the animals are everywhere, and this is going to be a great discussion.
We're gonna gossip today, you guys. Like
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I always say, history is so fun because it ain't nothing but glorified gossip. And boy, do we have some juicy, juicy stuff to talk to you guys today, and also some quite concerning stuff because this is yet another tale of how we have been tricked into celebrating our own enslavement, our own extinction. And of course, and I feel like for people like I say this off camera, for people like Catherine and myself, and for a lot of our people, regardless of where you live in the world now, if you have origins from if your ancestors are from England, Scotland, Ireland, Northern France, Germany, and India in the Baltic region, so also over there, you are considered to have Celtic or Druid origins. White people, basically, a lot of white people. So we are going to talk about this today, you guys, because of course I've been doing a lot of like digging through the old Cassiopeian manuscripts. And so now I'm really, every time I come across something, I do some research and I go and type it into their search engine to see what the Cassiopeians have to say. And I was telling you, Catherine, they didn't have anything on St. Patrick, which is crazy. So if anybody, I might email them and be like, can you please ask them about St. Patrick? And then I typed in Ireland, which was a mistake. Don't ever type in a country because you'll get pages of just references. And then I typed in Druid, and there's a lot of stuff about the Druids, which I skimmed through. It's too much to pull up on screen, but we're going to talk a little bit about our heritage. If you're a white person, if you have any type of white heritage, you have Druid heritage, period. End of story. And what that means for you, for your lineage, for your ancestors, what you carry in your DNA, where you come from, because none of us are from this planet. So where some of your ancestors come from off of planet Earth and Atlantis. Okay. And I know that sounds crazy because it's St. Patrick's Day, but trust, there's a point to this. And so I thought we could start, Catherine, just by giving people kind of the overall Cliff Notes version of who we're taught St. Patrick was.
Yeah. Go for it. I think this is really interesting because, follow through this. I can't wait to see what people think and what they know.
Right. And I'm going to preface this by saying the whole time I was doing my research into St. Patrick, the back of my mind, I was like, did this dude even really exist? You know, because we're like even questioning that now. Like, do some of our historical characters actually exist, or are they, you know, we know with like poltergeists, like entities can be created off of our own energy. So have we created an entity known as St. Patrick?
Yeah.
You know, and this has nothing to do with you being Irish. I think you have every right to celebrate your pride in your country. And I just want to make this clear that this is not an attack. What was happening with St. Patrick was not an attack on Ireland. It was an attack on the Druid and Celtic people, which if you got white in you, that was your ancestors. Okay. So they tell us they're not 100% sure if Patrick was a real person who really existed. They tell us they're not super sure when he was born, but the closest we have is 390 AD. Now, this is important because we're going to go back when we still talk about the conspiracy side of this. So I want you guys to remember 390 AD. Now, this was, if our history is accurate, this was in Roman-controlled Britain. So he would have been, they think he would have been born close to Hadrian's Wall. So if you guys don't know what Hadrian's Wall is, that was kind of the boundary, they tell us, that was built by Emperor Hadrian when the Roman Empire came in and took over what we call now England. Part of Scotland was left. Boudica, I've covered Boudica before. The people who lived on the Isle at that point really did put up a fight against the Roman Empire when the Roman Empire came in. But at that point, the island of Ireland was the last remaining stand of full-on control of Druid people. And they called Ireland Hibernia at that time. It was called Hibernia, which means the land of winter. And we know Ireland, there's a lot of, every area in the world has mystical places, right? But there is a lot of mysticism in Ireland. There's a lot of legends of leprechauns and fae and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of mystical stuff around Ireland. And I think a lot of that holds because it was in the last holds for the Druids. Now, again, Druids controlled this. The Roman Empire set up all this propaganda that the Druids were barbaric. They started propaganda that the Druids committed human sacrifice. From the Cassiopeians, we know that that is not true. The Druids nor the Mayans. Crazy enough, because we always think the Mayans did a lot. They weren't doing any human sacrifice. Most of them were vegetarian. And we're going to get a little bit into this after we go through the story, but I wanted to set that narrative that we have this island in the 4th century that the world has created fake news propaganda that this is the island of barbaric people. Now, around the time of Patrick's birth, what was happening, which we're going to get back to because this is very important, was we were starting to slip. We might have been there. I don't know. Historically, Europe was starting to slide into getting close to what we call the Dark Ages. Mm-hmm. Now, the Cassiopeans have said that the Dark Ages did exist. Now, they've also said that I think for some of it's going to be very hard for us to, I think, understand the real history timeline because we've been so programmed. It's hard to kind of like release that. But there was a Dark Ages intentionally, which we're going to get to. So at this point, because we were slipping, Europe, us of European descent, our ancestors were slipping into this Dark Age, the Roman control was starting to loosen, and there was a lot of invading raids from other areas. And this is what happened to Patrick. He was 16 years old at this time. His father, a man named Calpurnius, was a tax collector, which I thought was interesting. He was a tax collector, and he was already involved. So Calpurnius was already involved, and I wrote the state-run religion of Christianity, which we're going to get to in a minute. He was already involved in it. So when he was 16, they say that these raiding forces came in and captured a bunch of young boys and forced them into slavery. At that point, he was taken across to Ireland, where he was forced to be a shepherd, basically, for a Druid priest. And he lived in Ireland for a very long time at a place called a Slemish Mountain. Now, Slemish Mountain, I would love to next time I'm in Ireland. Last time I was in Ireland, I just was drunk all the time. I was very young, so now
that's very normal. Yeah.
Now I'm 42. I think I would probably go and take these trips. But Slemish Mountain is still in Northern Ireland, which is still owned by Great Britain, right? And it's an old volcano. So there's a lot of, and I think on St. Patrick's Day, allegedly, let us know if you're from Ireland. Let us know what you know, because this is an American looking at this stuff. So let us know what you know of Slemish Island, because there seems to be a lot of folklore around Slemish Island. Anytime there's a volcano, I think there's going to be some residue of energy, right? And so this is apparently, he was there from 16 to 22, and this is where he found God. He found God here. He went away, he did all these things, he came back to Ireland and basically used the shamrock, the 3-leaf clover, to teach the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Well, the Trinity was already part of Druid faith anyway, which we'll talk about. So we don't really know if the shamrock story was legitimate or if it was just an inversion of what the Druids already. And we see that the Trinity in Indian, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahman, like the power of 3 is in multiple cultures. So there's kind of some questions around the shamrock and St. Patrick, if that was something that was added in later. But anyway, he came back to Ireland to try to run the snakes out of Ireland. Now, we know, I think a lot of people took this like literally, because there are no snakes in Ireland, which that's so funny to me. I never realized that, because we have so many snakes.
I know, it's so funny because obviously we're just over the water and we've got snakes in the UK, although very few compared to somewhere else. But, and then you've got New Zealand that's got no snakes and things.
That's why, because in the South, now I grew up in the time where kids, you learn through your hard knocks, like our parents were not helicopter parents, and we would have to learn rhymes. So we have so many poisonous snakes here. Red on black, you better step back. Red on yellow can kill a fella. So we had to learn these little rhymes in school. I remember being like 8, 9, 10 years old and doing these rhymes with our teachers, because if you're playing outside, there's so many snakes. We had to know the coloring to know if it was poisonous or not, if it would kill us or not. So that's just why copperheads, rattlesnakes, those are easy to see though, because they rattle, and the copperheads have so it's wild to me that there are kids growing up who did not grow up
I've never seen a snake. Yeah, absolutely.
Really? Oh my God.
No, I have. No, I've seen loads. We've got loads around us, but there's lots of people that have never seen a wild snake. Yeah.
Down in Florida, my boyfriend's family, he's got a couple of black snakes in the backyard. They're good. They keep away rodents. Like, there's some good garden snakes you want. My boyfriend's dad just talks to the snakes. You know, he names them and he talks to them and he's appreciative of them being there. But, you know, it's just wild to me. I did not realize that Ireland did not have any snakes, or New Zealand. That's just wild to me. But anyway, we know that. So I think for many years we thought this was a literal story, that he literally but there's never been, according to science, there's never been any snakes on Ireland. For whatever reason, they just can't inhabit that. So what are they talking about him getting rid of the snakes? They're talking about the female priestess of the Druids, you guys. He slaughtered. St. Patrick worked for the Catholic Church and came in and slaughtered the pagan Druids. Now, for this, I want to go back and talk about the birth date of what we have of St. Patrick, 390 AD. Well, I know if you guys have been on this channel for a really long time with me, I have gone through many times the Council of Nicaea that happened in 325 AD, 65 years prior. Now, 65 years is a long time for us on planet Earth, but we know if we can look back, we can see how this group, the Cassiopeians, called the Cantorium, we call them we'll say it for YouTube's sake, the Illuma Shmati. This group, we know they're patient and they set things in motion that might not happen in their lifetime, but it's going to put us in a position in their children or children's children's lifetime to feed back to them. So 325 AD was the Council of Nicaea. This is extremely important, especially to Westerners. I was saying to you, Catherine, off air, that us white people get a lot of shit because our ancestors colonized. Europe was the first to be colonized. The first to be burned at the stake, to be tortured. This is what our ancestors went through. So the Christianity has only really had a true hold over Europe, or I'm saying Europe because any white person, or if you have any white heritage, for maybe 1,000 years. So for the majority of your biological DNA ancestors, majority of your time genetically, your heritage on this earth, if you're a white person, has been pagan. Now, pagan was a word created by the church. Just like conspiracy theorists, just like New Age, these terms are created. Pagan is basically any faith that isn't of the Catholic Church. Now, I've also gone through the definition of heretic. A heretic, we think of heretic as meaning evil demons. A heretic is just somebody who doesn't follow the narrative. So we're all heretics on both Catherine and my channels. I'm a proud heretic. If you didn't get this, you're a heretic because you didn't follow the narrative of the WHO, right? Or the CDC. So we've got this propaganda. We've got the Council of Nicaea. I have broken down Constantine was a piece of shit. Excuse my language. He was not a good person. He was the Mr. B of his time. The person he was up against that we've been taught to hate, that big battle they had at that bridge where Constantine years later rewrote the story saying he saw the cross and Jesus. That's all BS. We have that in his narrative that when he created that story. The person he was fighting against was a man that actually wanted people to have freedom. They wanted to have freedom of religion. And what Constantine wanted to do was to create a one world government of Europe. He wanted the Roman Empire at that time was 3 basically provinces that were governed by 3 people. Like a republic. It was a republic. And then Constantine brought it together under one umbrella under his rule. That is exactly what the B team, the New World Order, that's all that Constantine was doing. So what do we do now? If we have, which is basically socialism now. They didn't have back then. So what do we have? We have a socialistic society. We have a state-run religion. So what became the state-run religion was a version of Mithraism, which turned into Christianity. Mithraism is a faith of human sacrifice, of cannibalism. If you go over to the RUMBLE platform, I don't even want to say that because of what's going on in the world. I have deep dives into that. I can't put them up on YouTube, but they're over there on my channel over there. And if you really look at Mithraism, it is Christianity. And we see this in these old churches all over Europe. So the really old churches. That people go in Italy, and beautiful old churches. Well, underneath their tunnels and where the people are upstairs praying and doing their stuff, below you they're doing a sacrifice and drinking the we'll say the red juice that comes out of, okay? So this is Mithraism. So what happens is we have all these different, basically, a lot of the old missing books of the Bible, you guys, because that's where I started doing this research, are kind of like sutras, like spiritual sutras. They're not really like telling you have to do this or that. You know, it's more like the Yoga Sutras, like contemplating life. So you have all these different like sutras out there. Constantine takes them, brings in editors, whittles it down to 60 books, and then starts saying, if you carry any of these other books, we're going to kill you. We're going to burn you at the stake. That's what we found. A lot of the people were buried. All these missing gospels were buried in tombs with people because it was terrifying.
Exactly.
So we have this onset of this control, which pulls us into the Dark Ages, right? So that's when we start going into the Dark Ages, because they're going around, they're burning all of the information from the Druids. They're getting rid of all this stuff. So we go into a Dark Age. Now, this is all happening with St. Peter. So St. Peter's dad is obviously a part of, he's a tax collector. He's in this state-run religion that isn't even that popular at this time. So there's some red flags for me here with Calpurnius, Patrick's dad. Now, when we get to Ireland again, we're talking about the last remaining Druids.
Can I just say, for people that, because there might be a lot of people that don't know a lot about the Druids, but the Druids were really spiritual leaders, healers, scholars, astronomers. They basically held the sacred knowledge of the universe, consciousness and energy. And very few people are taught that. So when you look at any of the sort of ancient esoteric knowledge, these were the people holding the esoteric knowledge of that region.
Absolutely. So for the white people who think you don't have the stuff of like India or the Native Americans, you absolutely do. You do. It was the Druids. And if you have any white, any European in you whatsoever, you have Druid heritage. So your ancestors absolutely practiced this holistic, very mystical, shamanistic existence as well. And just like I said, the white people we were just the first to be colonized by the New World Order, basically, aka the Catholic Church. Now,
and also they had no central authority. So the Druids and the pagans governed themselves through wisdom, natural law, and energy alignment. They didn't need kings, popes, governments, etc. Their esoteric knowledge gave them their freedom and their boundaries of living. So you can see what a threat that would be to everything you're talking about.
And isn't that what we want now? It's the same thing.
That's the same thing being suppressed and inverted. It is just, I mean, once you start seeing this, Bryce, it just, everything starts falling into place. And we say the times now, but this has been going on for this long, this battle
since Atlantis.
Knowledge. Yeah.
So, according to the Cassiopeians, and it's so much, you guys. So go to the Cassiopeian forum, type it in yourself, read it for yourself. So I can't pull it. It's just so much. So I'm going to paraphrase. I was telling Catherine offline the history of the Druids. Okay. So if you're not into like woo-woo wacky stuff, you're not going to like this. But Catherine and I are. And we know that what we've been taught about our own history is basically bullshit. So let's talk about where the Druids come from. So again, the Druids and the Celtics, same group, just a different, same thing, right? It's like saying a white person or a Caucasian, like even though I'm not from the Caucasus Mountains, like it's the same breed of person, yeah? So the Druids or the Celtics were a group of people, so white people, I'm talking to you, who were brought to this planet from a planet called Kentek. Now, I've talked about this before. Now, you can see, according to the Cassiopeians, you can see remains of the planet Kentek in the rings of Saturn. There's these little clusters of planet that we call comets, but it's actually from the remains, because that planet got ruined by same battles we're dealing with now. And so the lizard beings, I know this is getting sci-fi, they're service to self, but sometimes service to self beings will do what appears to be service to others in order to harvest later on for themselves. So the Kenteks had a lot of this etherical, esoteric knowledge on their planet. So the lizards brought them to planet Earth. We're going to save you. We're going to bring you to another planet. But it was more harvesting us here to bring us together to then enslave us on this planet. I always laugh. I'm like, I can just see them getting off of the spaceship river dancing, like that's that's the white people, tap dancing and oh shucks, making our white
Yeah.
dad jokes, right? So the Druids, they became known as the Druids, and this is where we get again white people. So any type of a variation of blonde hair, red hair, blue eyes, white skin, hazel eyes, green eyes. This is all of Kentuckian origin. So they migrated up towards Northern Europe, which makes sense because lighter skinned people, I know lighter eyed people do better in like snow. They can, in a land of winter, they're going to survive more than a darker skinned person. So that makes sense. They migrated up there because that is survivable for them. Some of them stayed in the Baltic region. Some of them went into India. So a lot of Indians, even though you might know it, you have Celtic or Kentuckian heritage as well. All right.
Wow.
So when Atlantis fell, so a lot of the Druid influence. So in Atlantis, we have three groups of people. We have the Druids and the Celtics, the Indians, and the Native Americans. So those were the three dominant groups of Atlantis. So the Lizzies brought them over. We had Atlantis. Atlantis fell with a flood, the deluge that we see in all the cultures. 119 million people survived the deluge. It wasn't just Noah on a ship. Right? We see this in the Emerald Tablets. They went to high ground. They went into caves. Enough people to remember the knowledge of Atlantis and to then regenerate it. So what we see after that, Stonehenge was built by the Druids. The pyramids were built. Stonehenge has been allowed to kind of be in ruins to make it look more ancient and make it look a little bit more like ritualistic when it was really a conduit of energy, same as the pyramids. So they've done this intentionally. At this point, when we have in our modern time, because believe it or not, guys, this is considered modern history with St. Patrick and we have the demise, what the church is trying to do, the Illuma Shemati, is to get rid of all Atlantean practices, take those practices. So they take the Druid practices, they move it into their secret societies, invert it, and then smear this group.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you have anything you want to say on that, Catherine? I know I've been talking a lot, but this is just so juicy.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. And you know far more about it than me. And what I love, and the reason I'm smiling, is it's just everything that all of us have been talking about. And by all of us, I mean all the listeners, about everything we see is inverted. And there is this natural war. You know, for me, everything's coming back to the fact that the real battle, everything, is a battle on our consciousness of raising our true wisdom. Because when you look at the indigenous shamans, the druids, the mystics, they all knew something that they weren't meant to be remembering. And for me, everything we're seeing playing out since is to try and take that knowledge away from the people and keep it in these very small secret societies so that they could control the rest of us.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable. And they, again, the Druids also, like in a lot of these ancient groups and societies, had like a priest and a priestess. And the snakes were the women. They got rid of they basically committed genocide and slaughtered the women and then scared people. I have this book. I have a hard time saying it. Catastrophobia. I might get tongue-tied saying it. Catastrophobia. It was actually one of my boyfriend's books that he gave to me. And this book, The Truth Behind Earth Changes. It's basically about, it kind of goes into like the witch trials too that we see. And what they're doing is they're imprinting so much fear on us when it comes to like holistic healing, when it comes to anything spiritual or woo-woo, that we immediately in our modern society will reject it as bunk without even thinking about it because we're so programmed. There's a deep fear in us because of what happened to us. Because I think the witch trials were also part of getting rid of the remaining. It was prepping us for, I think the witch trials were prepping us for this.
Absolutely. And just to add to that when people are sort of saying, well, how's this relevant today? Well, look at a lot of our listeners will know Dr. Robert Young, who cures the big C word naturally, and he's just been jailed again because look at what they do. Anyone holistic who says that they can cure anything gets at best jailed and everything taken away from them, and at worst other things happen to them and they're unalived. And this is what I mean, is this is the greatest way to suppress this knowledge coming back out and to you mentioned earlier the three-letter agencies. This is what this whole propaganda machine is all about, is to snuff this knowledge, snuff this consciousness, snuff this innate wisdom within us, because we've all got these abilities. I heard you say in your video you spoke yesterday, yes, we are in third density bodies, but we can transmute that, because some people can levitate, we can do telepathy, we can call in these healing powers, but everything has been done for as long as history's around to suppress that and stop us realizing that each and every one of us has got these powers within us.
100%. And I was laughing with you, you know, the propaganda they use. So in one of the documentaries I was watching about how Patrick was so appalled because the Druids would put heads on spikes and how barbaric that was. Well, they would put heads on spikes of the Luma Shmati members that tried to invade before, and they put it as a warning because they knew what these people were doing. Like, you stay away from us, we're good. But then I'm thinking about, well, that's a little bit of gaslighting, isn't it? Because what did royal families across Europe do for centuries after? I mean, my boyfriend's, one of his, a 16-time great-grandfather, whatever, is Sir Thomas More. If you guys, Sir Thomas More was very famous for writing Utopia. He was a political advisor to King Henry VIII and King Henry VII, and he refused to take Anne Boleyn as the queen. And guess what? He had his head chopped off for it, and his head was put on a spike on London Bridge. His daughter, Cicely, had multiple daughters, but one of them, Cicely was her name, which is who my boyfriend descends from, had to go and get her father's head off of a spike. So you're telling me that that wasn't barbaric?
And they used to hung, draw, and quarter, which is the most absolutely barbaric thing you'll ever come across. I just horrendous. So, you know, this is what I mean. It's like when we talk, we throw around these terms in this whole discussion community that we're part of like everything's inverted. This is exactly what we're talking about. When your whole history has been inverted, when they're deliberately suppressing certain knowledges and belief systems and making sure that anyone who starts to say, hang on a minute, this isn't right, or we've got this deep remembering within us that's coming back up to the surface, they will do absolutely anything within their power to suppress it.
Absolutely. And the fact, I mean, my jaw was on the floor watching this documentary. I was like, so you're saying how barbaric it was because the Druids practiced self-defense, because they weren't violent people, but they defended themselves, put a head on the stake to warn the Roman Empire, the Catholic Church, not to come any further, because this is a warning. That was barbaric. But what King Henry VIII did, what, you know, the St. Bartholomew massacre with the House of Valois in France, that wasn't barbaric. But what are you talking about? Now, I wanted to say
how we're seeing that playing out with what's happening. We won't mention the countries because everyone knows them today. Right. Look at how you and I talk about this black and white thinking all the time. But when you've got whole populations of people that are basically have got this spiritual autonomy where they don't need religious rulers and institutions to dictate their belief, it's the perfect target for either Christianity or spiritual rulers who need mass control. And this is what we're seeing in all areas of society, is the only way they control the masses, look at the Hunger Games, is by the mass control and making an example of a few to control the many.
Yeah, it's so according to them, it's barbaric to practice self-defense. But it's not barbaric to do the exact same atrocity to somebody because they simply wouldn't accept somebody else as a queen.
Yeah.
They wouldn't bend to your will. It's crazy. I wanted to show you this, Catherine. This was crazy to me. So part of, and I'm going to pull this website up, you guys. Part of the legend of St. Patrick is the Hill of Slain.
We've got to go here, Bryce.
Okay, so especially after studying the law of one, I'm like, in what world is this something to be celebrated? So, I need my glasses. Hold on. Do you want to give people a brief overview of what this is, Catherine? The curse of St. Peter or St. Pat? It's too many.
Well, this is all new to me. You've dived way deeper than I have in it. So the Hill of Slain, rising prominently above the surrounding landscape of County Meath, Ireland, the Hill of Slain holds significant historical and cultural importance, especially for its association with early Irish Christianity. According to the legend, in the 5th century, St. Patrick, on his way to becoming the patron saint of Ireland, defied both the local king and Druid religious leaders by lighting the Paschal fire on the hill of slain during the pagan festival of Beltane. According to the tradition, the hill had once been the seat of the High King of Ireland, and tradition persisted that any man who lit a fire before the king on the night of Beltane would be put to death. The night of this festival so happened to align with the night before Easter, and St. Patrick chose to contradict the local customs and wishes of the king by lighting a flame celebrating the mystery of Passover and its fulfillment in Christ. Seeing that the imperious heathen were about to attack him, Patrick rose and said clearly and loudly, "May God come up to scatter his enemies, and may those who hate him flee from his face." By this disaster caused by St. Patrick's curse in the king's presence, because the king's order, 7 times men fell, and the king, driven by fear, came and bent his knees before the holy man. I think not.
I think not.
This bold act, carried out against the wishes of the High King, marked the beginning of conversion of Ireland to Christianity. I think we can think of a better word than conversion. Wow, I did not know that.
So you're telling me that the Druids were doing their own religious Beltane festivities. This dude comes up and lights a fire, causes basically the T word, TER. I don't want to even, because of the, you know what word I'm talking about. I don't want to say it on YouTube. The people who do violence to get their way. So that's what happened. He was a terror, and cursed them, calling for them to be killed, unalived. And then the king fell to his knees and praised Patrick as a holy man. Well, anytime you praise another human being as a holy man, that's already negative. That law of one says that, like, God doesn't have a pecking order of humans.
Yeah, I think everyone should go and listen to the video that you posted yesterday, actually, because that explains that beautifully.
Yeah. And the God killed these humans. So someone comes into your house, you're having, okay, let's take America, Thanksgiving is an American holiday. Let's say, like, you're having your Thanksgiving dinner and we have a person, I'm careful with the words. Let's say we have somebody not supposed to be here that's here in America from Venezuela, because that's a problem. And they come both breaking into your house, breaking things, throwing your food off the table, light a fire, and then curse you. But yet that Venezuelan is now celebrated as the holy man when you were just minding your own business in your own country, your own land, doing your own celebration, not hurting anybody.
And then you think, oh, this is such an example. I'm going to convert to their belief systems. Please let me. I mean,
where do I sign up?
Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible when you look through, and you've covered a lot of this before, about how many false idols, figures who are actually oppressive. So we've got St. Patrick, the genocide of the Druids. We've got Christopher Columbus with the indigenous people. We've got modern day politicians who are used as savers. And it's just absolutely incredible that they were then to believe that what they were converted over was an improvement on that. I mean, it's literally, we see so many examples happening today of suppression by force that's meant to be done for the good of the people. Well, the good of who? Never the people that it's being done to.
It struck, I mean, Ireland was the last holdout of Druid practices. I want to make that clear. These Druid practices were happening all over the British Isles, all over Northern Europe. Again, if you are a white person, this is your heritage. I stupidly did my DNA test before we knew those companies were bad, but I will tell you, I don't have any. It's crazy. Ireland is not lit up. I have a lot of English, little tiny bit of Scottish, a lot of French, a lot of German, and of course Scandinavian and Greece too. I don't know where the Greek. I'm kind of curious. Did one of my grandparents have fun in Greek? I don't know where that came from. But in Coptic Egyptian. But majority of my chart is literally the Druid. That's where the Druid. Yeah. So literally, and obviously, I mean, look at Catherine and me, like we're a walking example of these Druids. So, and I want to say I found a TikTok page, and I don't know if I saved it. I'll see if I saved it. It's on my. I would have reposted of a Black woman, basically setting the record straight and having the white people's back.
Mm,
being like, this is not a celebration because St. Patrick came in and murdered the high priestess, the white woman, the white. You guys
mm.
need to get this straight. So I appreciate this black woman for actually standing up for the white people and being like, this is not a celebration. He slaughtered your people in the name of the New World Order. And yet we celebrate St. Patrick's. Now, I think now this is where do we go from here, Catherine? This is something I wanted to talk to you about too, because just like Christmas, just like all these celebrations, I love a good holiday. And if you're celebrating them with good intention, I think it's great. And I
Yeah.
actually was looking at a lot of people because they're outside of Ireland, the country that has the biggest St. Patrick's Day celebration is America. And that's because we have so many people directly of Irish descent, especially after the potato famine. And that was the 1800s. So a lot of people can trace their direct ancestry back to Ireland from when we had an onslaught of Irish people coming to the United States. So there's a huge amount of we have the Irish mafia here, everything, just like the Italians. So I think, and I know a lot of these TikToks I watch, people who know the story of Irish descent, they in their house they don't call it St. Patrick's, they call it Irish Pride Day. And I think we should go even further and say call this Druid Remembrance Day.
Yeah, and I think once you understand it, it's all about the intent behind it. So, one of the things I think is that we now know that virtually everything we've been led to celebrate, regardless of what your religious faith might or might not be, is actually an inversion and to celebrate our own enslavement. So now people can celebrate St. Patrick's Day as a remembrance of that spiritual wisdom, of the connectedness, of the not allowed to, once you can actually have the alternative put and see what resonates with you. And if people look at this, like when I was looking into this, and I never would have thought to have done it, Bryce, had you not suggested it. But when I was looking into it, you can tell whether there's that resonance of, yes, that feels true for me. And we can actually encourage celebration of our spiritual connection back to these people because that knowledge is still within us. It's just very, very heavily suppressed. And if you look at how we're led of what is an acceptable way to celebrate things now, as an adult, it's all about drunkenness and commercialism and blind celebration. And whereas I have had fun doing that, I think, as you get older, you realize that all of those are just a way to suppress again the innate knowledge and hang on, this isn't something that is really resonating with me, and there's different ways to do it. So I think, when you start, you could celebrate St. Patrick's Day as critical thinking day, of connection with nature day, of connecting back into our ancient wisdom and that sort of deep knowing within us, and about how to understand that actually as humans there are lots of examples, if you look past the narratives that most of us are taught in school and the history books, of how huge civilizations could live together in harmony, not only with themselves but also with nature.
They were vegetarians.
I didn't know that either.
Meat eating only came in with the New World, with the we'll say, well, the establishment. That they were all vegetarians. They did not even consider. They might have used animal carcasses for warmth, but there was a huge respect for nature and a huge respect for respecting sentient beings. I don't know about you, Catherine, but I did about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, I did the Munich rites with my friend Cindy at Sacred Garden Yoga, and she's mostly Peruvian, but she also has a little Irish in her as well, honestly. And part of the rites that she was giving me was remembering, especially as a woman, the long line of healers that have secretly passed down knowledge that had to hide it, and to honor that and respect that. And that's how this knowledge is still available. That's how we still know how to do a castor oil pack, or how to use turmeric. It's, is because it's been secretly passed down. I mean, even when I was a little girl in the South, do you guys have hottie toddies, Catherine?
Yes. Yeah.
When I was a little girl, hottie toddy, for those who don't know, it's a hot whiskey drink.
Yeah.
If you have a sore throat, our parents as little would give us a hot whiskey drink as medicine for our throats. That obviously comes from that's not medicine you get at the grocery store, from Johnson and Johnson. That's something from your own kitchen that your mom puts honey. It's like honey and hot.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste that great, but it starts to clear up the throat. are rubbing castor oil on your chest when you're a child, and all this stuff is being passed down. And I don't know about you, kind of like before I actually thought to look into it, maybe this is maybe it's our ancestors saying, hey, pay attention to this. Because before this, for me, Atlanta has a big celebration for St. Patrick's Day. When I was growing up, we would do stuff at school for St. Patrick's Day, but I never really celebrated it because I'm not Irish. And I was like, I'm not Irish. It's have fun. Like, I have fun. But now I realize it's not even about Ireland. It's about the
Exactly.
Druids. And if you are a white person or have any type of white lineage, this is about you and your ancestors. Your ancestors, Ireland was the last place holding. So before St. Patrick's drove his army into Ireland to annihilate them, they had already done that in France, Germany, England to the Druids. So regardless of where your white European ancestors hail from, they went through this. They went through this genocide. And I can't imagine, like, it makes me emotional. I can't imagine having to watch your loved ones being burned at a stake.
Mm.
No wonder they submitted to, I don't blame them for being like, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, completely. Particularly anyone who's a parent, and in those days, it was a daily battle each day just to feed yourselves and keep warm and everything. And we didn't go along to the supermarket. And I think this is what so many people are waking up to now when they look at the Great Awakening. The Great Awakening to me is almost like the great reconnecting, the reconnecting with the ancient knowledge that's inside of ourselves. I think all of us know here how much trauma is trapped at a cellular level, and so is this ancient wisdom. If you look at Silicon Valley, they know that a single molecule of water can hold more information than any silicon chip. This is what we're doing. We are holders of information at a cellular level. And this is why, it's so hard for most of us to do, because we've been enticed with all these different commercialized ways of living, and you've got to go on the next holiday and you've got to have the next material thing. And all of us is to disconnect us from nature, because once people slow down and look at how many people started asking, so I hate the question woke up, because I don't think any of us will ever be awake. It's always a journey, not a destination. But look where they went so wrong in lockdown. Lockdown is when you take people out of their normal patterns of behavior, then the deprogramming starts to break down. So just like we see with the MK Ultra and all the celebrities, how it will only last for a certain number of time and then they have to take them back in and reprogram them. It's the same with us. If they keep us busy all the time, if they keep us focused on the next material thing, and if they keep us distracted with the Epstein files and things like that, then it's all to stop us actually realizing that we could stop all this tomorrow if we just reconnected with these ancient knowing that we've all got.
Our ancestors, the karma we carry from our ancestors. And we're going to take a brief moment just to talk about one of our sponsors, the Esoteric Academy. In this conversation with Catherine, we're about to get into different tools that people can use to try to get in touch with their more holistic side, with their ancestors, and tap into that ancient knowledge that we all carry within ourselves. If you are interested in joining the Esoteric Academy, there is a link below. Hold tight for this brief commercial, then we're going to get right back into the conversation. And of course, our sponsor for this episode today is the Esoteric Academy, an online mystery school built by my friend Paula and myself, where we bring you all of our years of training and education onto one platform globally, so that each and every person who wishes to participate in their own healing and taking their power back can. On this platform, we have a plethora of different courses that go over the Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras, how to develop a personal spiritual practice, and coming soon, a whole course on the Law of One and, of course, the Cassiopeians. What most people are missing or neglecting in modern day spirituality is the role of exercise. Exercise is foundational to spirituality for many, many reasons: to activate the chakras, to bring vitality, prana
evenly through the body to move stuck energy, and most importantly, to be able to reflect on one's own shadow work. Shadow work is a psychological concept. It involves exploring the unconscious parts of ourselves that we tend to reject or hide, the shadow aspect of our personality. The goal of shadow work in spirituality is to bring awareness to these hidden parts, understand them, heal them, and then integrate them into our conscious self. This, of course, can lead to personal growth, increased self-acceptance, and healthy relationships with ourselves and others. This also brings an aspect of mindfulness, that we have to be in our body in this life, not outside of our body. And the only way to move forward in our consciousness and our soul's evolution is to actually drop down into ourselves and to heal the karma or the work that needs to be balanced before we can progress further in our consciousness and in our soul's evolution. With this platform, I have taken the concept of traditional exercise, of activating all the chakras, all the vayus of the body, and I personally have incorporated them into more modern expressions of movement, because as I often tell my students, just because the work is hard does not mean it can't be fun. On top of that, Paula and I are bringing on other master teachers to also share their insight and experience with each and every student on the Esoteric Academy. My friend Cindy Ola of Sacred Garden Yoga, who is of the Iyengar and Anusara lineage, has just uploaded a 30-minute mobility class to our platform. With the Esoteric Academy, you also get live classes and live calls with both Paula and myself to personally try to help you understand your work for yourself in this journey. We also have an incredible community board with all the students all over the world being able to connect with each other and help support each other. The Esoteric Academy has 3 different tiers. We have a free tier, which holds a lot of our YouTube videos that have been shadow banned or deemed unworthy by YT. We have a second tier that is only $25 a month that gives you access to every single exercise class and the lectures involved with the exercise class on what spiritual information we're looking for with each class. This tier also gives you access to the live exercise classes that we also do. The highest tier is the $40 a month tier, and this gives you access to everything. Access to all of the courses, the many courses that we have, access to all the meditations and the exercise classes and the live classes and the live calls. The $40 a month tier also gives you significant discounts to any continuing courses or workshops, intensives that are offered by outside sources such as Catherine Edwards' website, etc., etc. With the Esoteric Academy, we also give you 7 days of a free trial where you can sign up and have unlimited access to everything for 7 days to decide if this mystery school, this shala, is right for you or not. If you decide it is not right for you, no problem. We can just cancel your membership. With that being said, we are also a small business, and we hope by being a small business that we can treat all of our students like family and really get to be able to help you guys as best as we can. With everything on this course, you are literally getting thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of information, worth of workshops, worth of classes for only $25 to $40 a month. If you would like more information on the Esoteric Academy or to sign up for the Esoteric Academy, there is a link down in the description box below. Now let's get back to the show.
And so what would you say, Catherine, like if somebody's watching this right now, if we have a person of Druid descent and they're just having this, where do you think would be the first place for people to start who've never engaged in shamanistic healing, but they want to now start studying that side of them? What would be a good place to start?
That's such a great question. I think go with what resonates to you. So you and I, we approach things. You approach it from all your spiritual teaching, your yoga knowledge and practice. I approach it from nature and the animals, and everyone will have an avenue in that appeals to them more. So I would say build on that, and then find some great teachings or a teacher that can help you through each step of the journey, and find like-minded communities to actually, whether they're online online or in person, because I think all you've got to do is start asking the question, why do I feel this yearning for something more? Why do I feel that the life I'm living is not who I really am? What is it that I am drawn to? So some of us, like I'm really, really drawn to gardening and growing food and connecting back in, because I've always had this massive connection with herbs and the spirit of the herbs. But I don't spend nearly enough time doing it. So that's where quite some of my disconnect comes from, is that this is what's really drawing me, but I'm caught in this material world. So I think the first thing is to sit there and take yourself out of your environment. When you're in your normal day-to-day routine, you will not get these openings. So that's why retreats are so popular. But for me, the best treats are the retreats that aren't filled every minute of every day with an activity or a treatment. They're the ones that take you out of your setting into some form of nature with a different, often in quite energetically significant places, where you can actually pause and see what comes up in you. And then sometimes if you've got some people that are experienced in helping you ask those questions, you'll start discovering what the right journey for you is.
Yeah, I love it. And I think too, even just reconnecting, like if you live in the UK, now I've laughed. We talked about Stonehenge. Last time I was at Stonehenge, they really wouldn't let you get close to those stones.
Yeah.
But drive by it. I know you get to drive by it sometimes and go
Yeah, I did last weekend. I drove there and back to see my daughter, and you cannot deny the feeling. You just cannot deny the feeling. And I want to take, if anyone wants to join me who's in the UK, let's take a day off and go down there together and just sit and talk and see what we're feeling and what's coming up for us all.
and talk to your ancestors. Those Stonehenge belongs to the Druids. If you have, that's your ancestors built that for the community. You know, for people like myself who are American, let's think about this, okay? Well, I think there was also Druids here in America too. That's just my own perspective because of Tartaria and different geological stuff. But let's just go with the mainstream history, right? Let's just go with mainstream history. So we know that the Cassiopeians, the Druids, Native Americans, and the Indians were the three big groups that were in Tartaria or in Atlantis. So if you live where I live, why not go study Native American? Because that's going to connect to the Druid too, because they were the Atlanteans. So go study that and see how that makes you feel. I also think, I think, Catherine, too, you can also talk to your ancestors and start to honor them. And
yeah,
for doing
it's one of my biggest regrets is not speaking more, not having the wisdom to ask more questions to my grandparents before they died. Yeah.
Oh, same. I wish I had talked to my dad's mom more, especially about her family before she passed away. But you know, like, look, I mean, for the white people in the Southeast, like, look how witchy we are. And I laugh about that. I always joke about that they go to church on Sundays, but they're doing root work on Sunday night. So tap into that. Why is it to the Southerners to the white Southern people, why is it that for generations, white Southern women have been accepted and brought into these witchy circles? Why is that? What connects the voodoo with the Native American, with the white? That there's something that's subconscious that connect, which is probably our shared history. And so, I think that's why that black woman on TikTok was very much trying to protect, because like we're the same. We come from Atlantean heritage, and it got taken from all of us. And so we need to support each other in reclaiming that, because it's all coming from the same. You know, in Northern Europe, they're obviously dealing with different elements than, like, you know, Nevada. But so they're doing different things to help be in the nature, but it's coming from the same source. And that's what the Cassiopeians is, that there is knowledge that is retained. The Druids were able to recreate an Atlantean environment because even after the deluge, knowledge was retained. So that knowledge is retained in us too. We just have to tap into it. We have to
help each other tap into it, and really encourage discussions like this, because look, I think most of us on our channels, on your channels, on my channels, the communities that we're all part of now, we know that the modern way of life is not serving any of us. It might be a great distraction for a bit, but there's not a single person that will say money brings you happiness. It might relieve a lot of stress, but it doesn't get to the root cause of what your purpose is here to be, how we're going to contribute. And there's something, that's why most people want to go to beautiful places in nature for their holidays. Some people love the beach and that's their connection. Some people love deserts, some people love prairies, some people love woods. So deep inside, listen to that. What is your soul calling for? And then sort of try and explore and say, I wonder where this is coming from, because this will help. So many people don't know where they're going for their lives, don't know what changes to make. But if you explored some of this knowledge, and now now a lot of the new, love it or hate it, but a lot of the new AI is making this really easy. And one of the things I found is it's all about asking questions. So if you want to know what's going to make you happy, it's about you asking good questions for yourself. And then we can apply that to some of the knowledge bases out there, and you'd be amazed at what information comes back when you start asking the right questions.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I've been using some AI stuff to help me out, and it's just a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool.
It's just a tool.
It's not
Yeah.
a sentient being. It's just a tool, like a knife is a tool. You can use it to hurt someone or cut fruit to serve someone. So it's just a tool. I also think too, really getting into your gut feelings about things, as your ancestors do. I remember studying in college that every molecule, every DNA strand we have carries the information from all of our past ancestors, their fears.
Absolutely.
So sometimes we have, like, I know sometimes we can confuse modern day fears we have as a past life experience, where sometimes it's actually an ancestral memory that is coming through. And who knows which is which, but sometimes that can happen. And so that can happen if you can feel something from an ancestor that you never experienced. Like I have a really hard time with my neck. And I don't know if it's because I was hung in a past life, or if it's an ancestral memory of one of my ancestors.
I have a real hard time with drowning.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have a real drowning and being pushed off somewhere high.
It's crazy because whenever I get my hair cut, I'm constantly pulling, and I don't know if it's my actual memory or if it's in my DNA from an ancestor that's like playing up. I don't know. But regardless, it's funny. I know this is going to cause controversy, but sometimes the Cassiopeians could be a little snarky, and I think that's why I like them. And one of them, when I was reading with the Druids, and I'll have to go back and find this, guys, because there were so many, they were asking about tarot cards. And this is why I say listen to your gut, guys, because tarot cards are used for people who have absolutely zero psychic ability whatsoever. So if you can listen to your gut and tap into your gut, you don't need a pendulum. You don't need tarot cards. Our ancestors knew this because they were so grounded in their gut feeling that they didn't need something to help them. I just thought that was fascinating.
I love it. And I think we see it playing out in modern society with titles and studies and evidence and everything. And evidence is normally just a distraction, all the evidence in the world. And I just wanted to finish from my point of view, Bryce, by saying for people that are more scientifically minded and saying, I don't get it, I'm not feeling it about all of this as your cellular, every cell, and you can go down and down within the cell, it's like a fractal of the whole, the interconnectedness. And if you're struggling to believe that, just look up what stem cells do in the human body or any animal body. So we all have stem cells that convert themselves into absolutely any type of cell based on the messaging that our body gives it to do it. And this is where you can start to see it's all about, we can go in whatever direction we want to, whenever we want to, if we we ask the right questions and then give it the right instructions. And what's happened to us from all these distractions outside, and we're starting to see with this history, the real history that we're all trying to uncover, how long this has been going on for, what you might call the Illuminati, I can't say it like you do, you all know what I mean, or the elite or whatever, or politicians or whatever you want to see it. What they're very good is stopping each and every one of us of asking the right questions, because they'll take up all our brain space, and the alternative media does this just as well as the mainstream, as we've spoken to. If all your energy, all your attention is being focused over here, it's stopping you looking over here. And we keep saying it's all in the distractions.
It is, and I'm telling you guys, that's a good teaser because I found some readings about some people the alternative media has told you are alive that absolutely are not alive. They're not alive, according to the Cassiopeia. And so, yeah, that's a great even alternative meaning. We're so busy trying to figure out who's alive when actually, like, no, let's look at your answer. Why are you putting all this emphasis on someone else being special when just the fact that you're alive and you're the product of years of survival means you are also special? And so it's fantastic. I think next year, March 17th, I'm going to designate this as Druid Remembrance Day.
I love it. I love it.
It's a time for all of us of any type of European descent and anybody who's not of European descent that also wants to celebrate with us because this is
Well, come over, Bryce, and we'll arrange it. Come over.
We'll kick them on a Stonehenge and be like, listen, this is ours. Our ancestors built this. You can fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
Roman Empire. Our ancestors did this. I mean, look at Boudica. Boudica is one of the most. I covered her a while ago. I'll link it down in the description box below. She was definitely. I mean, she was a woman on a mission.
We did a show on her because I wasn't sure first because we say Boudica.
Oh, Boudica. Really?
Yeah. So we were taught Boudica is how we pronounce it. Or how I did. Perhaps I'm wrong, but that's how I was taught at school to pronounce it. So, but yeah, we did one on that, and it's absolutely fascinating. And there's a reason why there's so many examples of, you know, such a cliche.
She was a druid. She was a druid in the United Kingdom before, when the UK was being invaded by the Roman Empire, the Catholic Church, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. That's the same thing. She was a high priestess who fought back. Women were respected in the Druid society, and so they were strong women. And so she was a Druid, obviously, that she was Druid. And so we have to, and we also, I think, have to forgive our ancestors, because again, if you are white, you obviously are a subject of the Roman Empire as well, for submitting, for the impact that they were under. They got tortured way worse than we, you know. And so we're lucky that all we were was threatened with losing our jobs for not getting these, when they were literally getting hung, drawn, and quartered, skinned alive, boiled alive. I mean, Constantine himself boiled his wife alive just for, I mean, that's a man of God, of Christ. Like, Constantine was a psychopath, you guys. He boiled his wife alive, and he executed his own son because he heard a rumor that his son was having an affair with said wife who was boiled alive, which wasn't even true. This is the person that you are venerating, just like St. Patrick. For all I know, if St. Patrick actually exists, he can rot in hell. I
just want to say, you know, we mix the reason I love our coffee chat so much is because we match the serious issues with a bit of fun and girly gossip. And you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago. It's up on my channel. You'll find it with a picture of Candace Owens. We spoke about why Candace Owens and the work she's done on Bridget Macron and Emmanuel Macron is so important, because it's all another example of the inversion, and it can go into a lot of other issues on top of that as well. But again, if in today's society they can pull off a lie like that, nothing to do, no one cares whether someone's transsexual, none of us care about that. But if it's the P word of young children, if it's the I word of families doing that, that's a different matter. But the main point is, why the lies? There's no reason in this day and age for anyone to lie about that, because generally speaking, it's so accepted. And I think actually if people were true about things like that and there wasn't something sinister behind it, they'd get a huge amount of support. Yeah. So anytime there's that much effort put into a deception, therein lies the problem.
I love that, because the Macrons are the same group as St. Patrick, guys. It's the same group. It's the same group. And we talk about lies and deception. These are people living now. Like, why are we still lying about St. Patrick? Why do we still lie about somebody that lived almost, not quite 2,000 years ago? Like, why are we still lying? Why can't we just be honest about this, that it was genocide?
Because they're laughing at us. They're laughing at us actually literally celebrating our own captors.
Our own demise.
Energetically, that means a lot to them. You know, deception and getting people. And the thing is, if people know, they don't need to take offense about it. It doesn't mean you can't still have fun. As you say, doesn't mean you can't celebrate your heritage, the amazing things about the Irish people and Ireland. There's so much to celebrate there, but you don't have to do it by celebrating someone who's so evil.
In the name of Saint Patrick. No, do it in the name
Yeah.
of the Druids. Well, it's that I love that. That's like, why do we chastise Hitler? I'll say the Yazis, but yeah, praise it. They're the same thing.
Yeah.
What Saint Patrick did is the exact same thing as what this dude, the Yazis, did. It's the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why are we celebrating this one? Yeah, and they are the powers that be are laughing at us because we are literally out there drinking and celebrating our own genocide.
So you can go out and celebrate and drink next year, but do it in the things of the thumbs up to say, we know your game now and we're celebrating our true heritage and our true gifts.
We should make t-shirts for next year, Catherine. Our Druid Remembrance Day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really want to hear, I know this is Bryce's channel and Bryce's thing, but I'm so keen because Bryce, I wouldn't have thought to look into this had you not suggested it. And this is where we can all come. And then when you do, it pulls all these important bits of the information together. So I love it. And I really want to know, what does everyone who's listening, what do you know about it? What are your thoughts? How does this make you feel if you've got Irish heritage when you hear this? What if you haven't got Irish heritage? What in your culture is another example? And have you looked into that? And what do you want us to tell us about that?
I would love it if you have any other, like, I was about to suggest that, Catherine. Let us know. I can look through the Cassiopeians, all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I have to say, we have to give a shout out to cover the story to all the drunkards.
Yeah.
That I live right in the middle of Atlanta, and on Saturday, because Patrick's Day was on Monday, but on Saturday we took Ravi on a WALK, and we actually went up into the city. And my boyfriend, he's not a city person, even though we live in a city. He was like, oh, he was getting all, because there were just drunk people everywhere with green leprechaun hat, like, and I was like, oh shit, it's St. Pat. Like, so
yeah.
We can thank the drunkards of Atlanta, Georgia. Because I was like, that would actually be a good thing to look into.
Yeah.
So we can thank all the drunk young college students that were out there having a grand old time on Saturday. And we will, let's make this Druid Remembrance Day. Let's give them the middle finger, you guys, and say this is no longer St. Patrick's Day. It's Druid Remembrance Day. And us white people, we're taking it back. We're taking our culture back.
If Trump can change the name of the Gulf of Mexico, we can change the St. Patrick's Day.
Let's petition him to do that, you guys, and be like, this needs to be Druid Remembrance Day, because he's got Druid in him too. So,
absolutely.
You know, so anyway, you guys, well, I thank you guys, and absolutely let us know if there's any like weird celebrations from your country that you want us to look into. I will literally go to the Cassiopeians and plug it in. There's 31 years worth of information there, and it's always, I laughed when I saw the tarot card thing, though. I was like, they can be a little like, why are you using, you don't need a tarot card. Like, that's only for people who have no psychic ability whatsoever. That's it. So you guys, trust yourself, trust your instincts, and know that you have access to these memories. You have access to this information. Your ancestors are with you. We learn in yoga that we carry our ancestors in our neck. So if you have pains in your neck, that might be your ancestor trying to like get a hold of you and like wake you up a little bit. And I honor all the Druids, all of our ancestors who lost their lives trying to protect the sovereignty of what they knew to be true in their celebration of God and the divine. So I honor that, and I thank all the people for bringing awareness to this. So happy Druid Remembrance Day, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Next week on Catherine's channel, guys. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.